welcome back, what, Carter?
Here she comes.
Camera's acting up, and Graham's like, "Are you using your phone?" I'm like, "Oh God, it must be really bad."
Like it just looks like an earwax problem.
Wiping it off, and I don't get it.
Yeah, use a cloth. Yes, lean up in there.
Hold,
use a piece of your t-shirt.
Hold,
your
please.
sleeve. Okay, guys, welcome back. Oh my gosh, we're having so much fun. I'm having a great time.
It's so great, and we're glad that you can all join us, and we're so happy to be continuing this conversation with you guys, because we know we all have a lot to talk about. When we last left off, Graham, we were kind of talking about your relationship, with Jessi when you met her on 1001 Things. Through that, I know she looked up to you a lot and you inspired her a lot. And I know that part of that was a little bit about Landmark. So Is there anything that you can share about Landmark? Because that was something that, Jessi took on her journey as well.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, a big part of our relationship was just because naturally of who she is and who I am and what we bring to our friendships and our work. It's like, you just want to elevate the people around you, and you're up against your own growth challenges. You've had some level of, she had levels of success. It's just like, yeah, it's all good, but there's more. How do I get there? And this is around the time I met her. After I had met my who would become my wife, and so I was in a relationship at the time, and I had taken the Landmark Forum, which was something that was introduced to me by friends close to me. And it's a frightening thing when you're first exposed to it, because it rocks the precarious scaffolding that you've put in your life to keep the tight grip on how you've been doing life from the beginning, in the protected, scared way that you have been. The idea of giving that up is a frightening proposition, but ultimately what the work does is, it's a 3-stage curriculum, where Landmark Forum is really where you learn how you work. The things that were formative in your early life that made you make decisions that informed every other decision that you made from that point forward. Oh, I'm not going there because I'm not hanging out with them, because I can't do that, because a child put those parameters in place. So you ultimately have the conversation. Landmark is a place in time and space, and a forum is a conversation that allows you to have the necessary conversation that has you arrive at what version of yourself put all the rules in place for how you're living, and how old is that version of you. And once you know who's at the wheel, you now kindly go back and go, thank you. You got me here. I'm great. I'll take it from here based on what I really want. And so, the next stage in the curriculum is the advanced course, where you learn how groups work. You learn how you work. Now you learn how groups work. And then self-expression and leadership is you learn how to emerge as a leader within the group, right? So a lot of my conversations with Jessi, the work that I had done in Landmark allowed me to be who I was for her. With dignity and respect and boundaries, and champion her as a human, and build a show with integrity and have relationships with integrity. She was sharing with me ceilings that she was coming up against in her own performance and in her own relationships and in her own family, things like that. And I was like, Jess, consider doing this work. It's like, it's not for broken people. It's for excellent leaders who want more, right? I am now in the way. I've got to a place where I am now in my way. And so I have to say, Teresa, it chokes me up, because I didn't really get who I was for her until after she was gone. And I thank you and her friends, her other friends, that really shared with me what she shared about me, because I didn't know. I knew what we had, but I didn't know that, Jessi, like she goes off on a rocket ship into these other compartments of her life, and you're like, you don't know, it's rare that people cross over into different pockets, right?
This call is the example of that.
Yeah,
We're all bumping into each other. She'd
Right.
run off to be with Teresa, or she's off with
Yeah.
me riding across the country, or she's, yeah.
So I mean,
Totally.
sadly, one of the gifts that I got after she had passed was that, like, affirming who I was for her, which affirmed who we were for each other ultimately. And it was like, okay, it worked. That's what it was. And it was pure and real. And a lot of that had to do with the work that I had done, but then the work that she did cracked open this whole new realm for her, where now she can try new things in career, have confidence in new relationships, things like that, that family, with her family, I think in particular, and friends close to her. You know, Teresa, you're like, real deal is the OG. Like, she talked about you a lot. She talked about the work that you guys were doing. You were the first foundation tied to Jessi.
Yeah.
And when I look back, you know, the work that Dana's doing, such incredible work for the foundation, and as are the other board members on the foundation as well. I look back and realize, like, Real Deal was the precursor to the Jessi Combs Foundation. My relationship with Jessi and being a champion for her and her cause was a precursor to my work on the foundation. And it was there from the beginning in a lot of ways. And so this is all just like extensions on the journey to, like, become a good human, elevate your community, champion the goals and missions of other people if they're good and pure and integral, and love deeply, love richly, and just be like, just have the stuff, the fabric of, like, just get after it, because your life does depend on it. The life you want depends on your approach and the people you have around you. Because if they're not great and you're not growing and you're not pushing, you know, you're in the slow lane, and the life that you want, along with everybody else that's getting after it, is the ones in the left lane passing. And so that work, I can't speak to specifically how much it cracked open for her, but I think I'd love to hear from you, Teresa. One of the things that you shared with me was just like your relationship with her and what that did for your close working relationship, because it's not easy to have a partnership. And I think, you know, there was some, I don't know what you call it. Like, it wasn't, it was known that you guys were fighting for something, and it felt like it had friction along the way, but I want to believe that it was important.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, and the reason I bring up Landmark and I share it, you know, I'm happy that we're sharing it today with others, because I think it was, in our relationship, you know, it was just under 10 years. And in that time, there was a huge difference in her growth and her turnaround during that. And at first I didn't really, she didn't tell me she was taking it. I was like, I'm noticing something different. I'm not quite sure, but it was, again, in her communication, because that was always the thing, right? You know, the language that gets used or the communication, it's different, the style.
You take accountability.
Yeah. And so all of a sudden it started changing, and I was like, wow. And I could see, and you said it's like she was already an incredible human being to begin with. It's not like she wasn't. But the way it affected her, she was just like, and that's what I said. She was like, to me, you're one of the closest people to her. When, you know, she would always, like I said, she thought of you like a brother to her, you know, she really did. And she cherished, you know, the relationship, you know, that she had with you. I know all of us had amazing relationships with her, you know, and during that time for her, you know, and she didn't share, you know, how she shared with people. If she could talk to someone about something, and she knew if she wasn't going to share that with you, she picked certain people to do that with, you know. And so certain people, you know, like you had mentioned, Dana, like along the way, like like, you too, Graham, like it is. It's like, she'd be like, okay, I'm over here. No, I'm over here. Like, and you're like, what? But you knew that was your relationship with her. And it wasn't something that we all, she was her. She was just this beam of light that kind of bounced around everywhere, and she still is. But I know that you inspired her by that. She saw something in you that she was like, he's different. Like, what is he doing that I need? Like, she wanted it. And it was in the way that you like approached things, and that you handled certain situations. And she was like, I need to get there. Because she would get frustrated, and she would have those moments where she was like, she knew she wanted something to like ground herself a little more. And obviously, yes, like you mentioned, her family and some, relationships and things like that. And she was just like, why is this not happening? How can I, change it or work on it? And
it's ultimately about being a leader, and it's about taking accountability for all of the circumstances in your environment and the people around you. And so I think what she was seeing was, I was the producer of that show. I was the leader of that team. She would joke, so, all right, Dad, where are we going? We're like, what's next, Dad? And I had my wife had our first child in 2013, which is like a month after she did the land speed for the first time. And so that was when the show was just starting to get its feet. And when my son was born, it was transformative. I just became a dad. I just became a dad for like my environment. And so I became a dad for the show, right? Before I was kind of the producer, and then I just became a dad for the show. It's like, okay, I'm going to pave the way so that we have the food that you need, because her diet became really important when she was having what was it,
adrenal failure.
Adrenal failure, right? She was running herself to zero and then like hanging on the bottom. And so we changed our whole production method where it was no longer hotels. We would stay in Airbnbs because we were comfortable with each other as a group. We had mutual respect at that point. We would stay in houses with kitchens, refrigerators. Our craft services budget was to go to the health food store and buy the food that she needed and we needed to succeed and thrive and do the things that charmed us and like made people whole and feel great, right? But we were walking into difficult environments like the Arctic Circle when everything is freezing and failing, like different weather, like foreign countries, like not having permission to be places, and just the necessity to transform something in a moment and have it Jedi work. And everyone goes, great, right? And it was something that I had to do to survive. But luckily my friends had shared the forum with me, and I went kicking and screaming. And you realize that like, I was so afraid they were going to paint me a different color. And I just broke down crying on the way out going, I am a different color. I just got to wash the mud off. I didn't know I was like this until I washed all the shit that I put in the way of, in my view, right? And so it had a lot to do with accountability. And she took accountability for her relationship with you. She took accountability for Real Deal. She took accountability for her relationships and her with her family and with work and deals and all that stuff. It's just like you go from chip on the shoulder to knowing what you really want.
Yes.
What so?
It was like an extra glow, came around her. And I at first I was like, something's different. Like, you're not telling me like what's going on. And then she told me, I was like, oh, got it. I was
and the thing with it is once you feel it, it's a crime that like when you see people struggling with their stuff, with that resistance, it's like, it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. You can keep fighting how you're fighting. Doesn't have to be that way. Right. So I don't know. And so, but then you're the person like, me, then you're me pitching.
No, but it seriously, like it's hard for me to find like that pivotal moment that really transitioned or anything, but you could see it. She was already going up, and then it was like straight up, literally, right? I mean, she just like the choices she made. I mean, you know, going to Baja, what she had to do to get to Baja. I mean, she sold things. She had to fork out a lot of money to make things like that happen. I mean, she was like, nope, I'm all
Bet on
in.
yourself.
I'm going. Yeah.
Bet on yourself. In short, once you realize that where you're going requires a different you,
Yeah.
that's there's only shaping the different you, the version of you that needs to be in that place that you're going. Who is that version of you?
Yeah.
How are you going to become that person? Because that's the only way you're going to survive when you get there. And I think that she had that she went to land speed. 2013 was a fluke that she delivered, and she broke that first 4-wheel record, right? We all left there going, well, that was like, I guess that's just how it goes, right? It's just easy like that, you know? But then I think it became clear and you know that things take turns and become more challenging as you go, but Jessi, and you see it over the film, she's a leader, a real true leader of that team by the end of the film. And that was like ultimately that's all her.
I've watched the movie a lot of times, put it that way. I'm like, I like I watch and I learn from her, and I see the morsels, and the moment like where she got questioned about something, and she's like, no, this is how we do it. And she stepped in, and she was like, and that was such an important part. And for you to provide that context about that was her stepping into that leadership role. And you're right, it is about being a leader, and to be, you know, we're all leaders in our own way, but it's stepping into it.
You are. It's so incredible and it's not like, for me, it's less of a male female thing and more just being in this group, this particular one on this podcast, but also Real Deal, and now the foundation, and women in motorsports and the SEMA groups and things like that. It's just like so incredible. You lose sight of how many leaders you're around, how many really successful business owners have like led the charge to transform an industry, to grow a business, to pay how many people's salaries, to give back. There's so many great people around us that have done so much, and they're like sleepers, you know, like right. they're not the like loud, boisterous ones. They're the quiet, gentle, kind, confident enough to be kind people.
Yeah.
Like you really have to be listening. And Jessi had a thing, and it informs the work that we do in the foundation, where she would go out of her way to ask, who are you and what do you want? What's your dream? What are you up to in life? And if you continue to lean in and step in and stay interested, she would continue to make time and grow and elevate and give insight. And the number of women that I've met, young women now, that have been impacted by, 30-second, 4-minute conversations with Jessi is incredible. She just knew how to make quick impact, and she changed the trajectory of countless lives. And for us at times it was like, oh, here we go, Jessi's talking to another person, we're trying to like do a job and the whole thing. But it's like, no, what's really happening is more important, that like this impact right now for this person. And Jessi was clear about that. Like, this moment with this girl is her everything, right? Like, yeah. I've got everything else she has right now.
Yeah.
And that's huge. As leaders, you have to remember that say the thing that seems self-evident to you.
Yeah.
Ask the questions of the people that seem uncertain and shy. There's gold in there. And for them to hear themselves say it out loud is for them. I don't learn things about myself until I say it out loud. And that's true with anyone, young people in particular, because who's asking and who's listening, right? Listening, coming from a person who's been talking a lot on this podcast, listening really is like,
we love it. It's good.
But that's part of discovery. It's part of the filmmaking process of like my relationship with Jessi was to listen. Just listen. I'd ask her a question and listen until it came time to like dig, but just listen. And that's rare that you get that opportunity. And she was a great listener as well.
I was just going to say, I think I hear that. And I think my relationship with her was talking. I feel like she was my friend. She was a girlfriend. I would just unload and she listened and listened. And I'm like, I wish I could thank her. Because she listened.
Yeah.
The most valuable thing she gave us all was her time. You know, she stopped and she did that with so many people. And all of us thought like, you know, like, oh, we're not good at, like, really, like, what, you're stopping and talk, like you're hanging out or you're doing something. And that's what you're saying, these people that pass by, but that's what she did. She stopped and she gave her time and like you said, listened, but she stopped.
Yeah.
That was so important.
No matter what.
This all gives me chills.
No matter what she did. And I think that was her brand of empowerment. I've talked about this before, is that the world needs more of it. And that she was a trailblazer in that, in so many ways. I could talk for hours about that, but like she was ahead of her time when it came to how she empowered people and by listening, men and women. And she would, you know, it's like, no matter the heights she got to, she had time to teach me how to wheel. And, you know, in my Jeep that just a normal Jeep, you know, and we're like, you know, we're hanging out on a Saturday and it's like, let's go, you know, what do we want to do today? We're just hanging out. And it's like, oh, let's go wheeling. All right, cool. Like Jessi's got race Jeeps. She's got, you know, her UTV is from Polaris and all these, you know, these cool things, projects she's doing. And I'm like, oh, what do we want to take? She's like, let's take your Jeep. And I'm like, my normal Jeep, like, and she's like, yep, let's take your Jeep. And we went, you know, and spent the day. And it's like that, those moments times 1,000 times 100,000 that she did for people, that, you know, that her ability to share her gifts and talents and like bring others along with her was what made her different in so many ways. And it's one thing to be successful and to make it to great achievement. It's another thing to bring others with you. And that to me is leadership. And I just want to bottle that up and share it with everyone.
She had a way of, sorry, Graham. She really had a way of creating that culture that we were talking about earlier, Dana, and how just that act of kindness and being present, not unlike the four of us sitting here right now, reminiscing about our experiences with Jessi, but knowing that we all have, you know, our experiences, Dana, of having a great conversation at SEMA and how, you know, it just revitalized us. And it's so connecting. And Graham just kind of touching on, oh my gosh, so we really could have met 10 years ago, you know, that kind of stuff. And Teresa and I talking about how, you know, in our conversations about how kindness and courtesy and, you know, here all along, this woman, this little fire plug, this blue-eyed little girl,
I know,
was really teaching us something. Maybe it's something innately we all had inside of us, but she had an uncanny way of bringing out in a beautiful way, nothing that would make you feel less than. It would just tenfold. It would be like, oh yeah, you're right. Totally. I have that. Go. Yes. Right. So, I mean, it's just amazing to me how one person can come into your life. And then you guys, let's not even talk about the fact that, you know, individually we're all making history, but here is somebody who fucking made history. Bleep it out. But I mean, it's
She
pretty
did,
amazing.
and that's why we're all here, because of Jessi. Like in a way, like I wouldn't be here talking to you guys. I wouldn't know you guys. And
Yeah.
Right.
she was the glue and had all these connections. And the last 3 years, I call it Jessi archaeology. Like there was so many facets of Jessi, that there was the friend that I knew that I loved to ride motorcycles with, that I loved to share and cry and rage or whatever, just be ourselves with. And then there was like this woman who was changing the world. And I just think about how, like, the Jessi archaeology piece, which is like going back and figuring out all these other facets of things that she was doing, and learning about that so that we can continue to share it and be stewards of that. Like that's I don't know. And that's it's a great responsibility that everyone that ever encountered her has, I think.
And such a welcome responsibility. Like, yes, we're doing this.
Like, I have 0 other friends that I would help start a foundation for. Sorry, guys. Sorry, everybody.
Totally okay.
Gosh.
Maybe I should look into my friend group. No one's starting one for me.
No, me either. So
Yes.
it's like, thank God.
Dude, yeah. Well, and Graham, I mean, just let's going back to the idea of the documentary, and first off, how beautifully that was all put together. But when we were at the Harley Davidson in Las Vegas, and you said to me, this is where you fill in the blanks. You said to me, what?
What did I say?
Oh, shoot.
Graham, what did you say?
You said, you had made a comment that somebody had.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Okay.
About turning in.
You say it much better, Graham. She just wants you to say.
Oh, I know this one. This is a good one.
Okay. So let me land there. So, when we were making the list, there was a period of time where it was almost 50%. Like I would create the ideas, and then Jessi would bring in things like, early on it was go to SEMA, because she's like, I'm going to be at SEMA. Great. Can I come? Can we make an episode about going to SEMA? Right. She would do, like, I'm doing Baja. I want to do the Mint 400. I want to do, forget what other things, King of the Hammers. Right. So she came to me, and this one time it was different. And she said, hey, I got this opportunity to be the driver of a land speed car for the North American Eagle. And I could tell there was a different gravity to this conversation that we were having. And she says, what does it mean for the show? And what does it mean for us and the whole thing? And because I think she got that, like, I don't know what this is going to require of me, but it's something I know I need to do. And I think her thing was around credibility. It's like, no one can question me when I'm the best at something. And so her sights were set on, I'm going to be the best at something. And I'm either going to be Queen of the Hammers, winner of the Baja 1000, or the fastest woman on earth, or whatever it is, I'm on my way to the top. And that's what's happening. So she knew it wasn't a light decision. And I said, yeah, this is awesome. Like, let's do this. And so it was a company at the time. So they were like, okay, she needs to sign releases. You guys are just going as witnesses. She's doing this under her own volition, the whole thing. So we did all the paperwork, whatever, we go. And like I was saying earlier, my son was about a month from being born. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I can go. I don't know if I should leave my wife, go out to this lake bed in like the middle of nowhere. No, there was no cell phone service at that time out there yet. And we went and we were introduced to this magical environment with this incredible team, realizing that this is happening with one team in one place on the planet. And here we are because of Jessi and whatever she's done to this date, here we are. And we were outsiders. And so we came in with the respect of outsiders, and we were gracious. And back to that, like, we just built relationships with this team, and we built trust with them of like, hey, this is your world. We're just here to like celebrate you guys, share your story. Again, go to a remote place, capture the story, bring it out for everyone else, because no one else is on that lake bed, right? And so she has an incredible year. She breaks the record, she leaves, and she's like, hey, I'm going to keep doing this. What do you think? And I said, you know, my partner, Chris Otwell, and I said, we're in it. If you're going to keep doing this, we're with you. And we want to help you share your story with the world, and we'll be here with you through all of it, no matter how long it takes, no matter what turn, like, we're here. And she's like, you know, I want to tell the whole story, and I want them, as many people as possible, to see it. And for young girls to get for themselves that I'm an average person.
Yeah.
And if I can do this, they can too. Surely if they see me struggle and face challenges with courage and continue on this path through all the failures, surely they'll know that they can too. And so this path, this archaeology that you know, that Jessi, that Dana was talking about, it was all there. The bandana was there the whole time. Her mission was there the whole time. The blueprint, her intentions, everything was there. We just stayed with her, filming as partners and friends. And as you see in the film, year in, year out, year in, year out, you know, it's like kept adapting and going and going. And so we've captured all this footage. This is 7 years in the making, you know? And so we didn't know when or how it was going to end. And so this is all work that she did. And so now that I'm skipping a lot here, but once the film was released and we found a home for the film with HBO Max and it was released, it was this weird moment where it's the one thing I wanted for her so badly all along, but I couldn't sit with, congratulations, Graham. Congratulations, Chris. Congratulations. This is great. Congratulations, you guys. I'm like, I can't reconcile that. Like, I appreciate what you're trying to say. I appreciate the spirit of what you're trying to say, but like, congratulations doesn't feel right to me. And I need to make peace with this. And so I work in metaphors, and like the image that came to mind for me was like, yeah, we worked our asses off on this thing and we did it over close to a decade. And it was all there, and of her doing so much that we applied our filmmaking and friendship and relationship to this whole thing. But like, the thing that made me feel okay with all this was that if congratulations, great, completion is something to be proud of, delivery and like release into the world, right? But what we ultimately did was walk through the desert, swim through the lake, climb the mountain, come down back the other side, and run a marathon to hand in Jessi's homework and say, she did this. She needs to get credit for this, and the world needs to know that she did this, because they couldn't be there with her when she did. And they only know pieces of the story. And so here's the report. And it's her doing. And she deserves to be recognized for it. And congratulations, sure, for running the marathon, climbing the mountain, and traversing the desert. Fine. I'm okay with that, because I got to fulfill, and Chris and I and our team, so what ended up being a growing team as it got later in the process, that we delivered on the life's work of a dear, dear friend. And that to me is just so life affirming that I never would have thought in a million years that that would be the opportunity that was available, to share the work of a friend with the world.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The day of the premiere was an awesome day. I mean, it was so good, right, Dane? All of it with all of you, everything. But like, out of everything that really got me that day was the moment of you sharing, and I'm still getting chills at the moment of you sharing, you know, the commercial of what it was at your house of her. And all I could think is the rest of the world is going to know about her now. Mm-hmm. I just, as many people as that knew her when she was here, to me, not enough people knew her. And I'm like, how the fuck did not everyone know this woman? How amazing she was, and all these things. Like, you just put all these accolades and you fit them into the film. They're in like 5 minutes, right? We all know there can be millions of documentaries made about her and all of these journeys that she took. And just sharing that, I was like, oh shit, man, this is like, this is her sharing what she's doing with the rest of the world.
That's Teresa, it's so true, because it's like those of us, the film, it's like those of us that got to have an interaction with Jessi, whether it was a handshake and a moment, or a friendship, or being a family member, or whatever. That's our, like, we're all lucky to have had that moment, or just being inspired by her in her television, you know, and just seeing her. This film is for those, in a way, that, Graham, I could be speaking out of turn, but that didn't get that moment. And so now the rest of the world, those of us that had that experience with her, even like hand to hand, or again through her other film in the automotive world or in the motorcycling world, these niche kind of industry moments, now it's for the world that gets to know Jessi. And that's the power of this film for her mission.
I mean, I have a saying, like, you either love Jessi or you've never met her. And that was the thing that, like, you know, there was a period after the accident, you know, so coming out of 2019 into 2020, even like early pandemic days, and then like, even all through all of that, like, we're like, okay, well, we don't have Jessi, but now we need to go talk to all of her friends and all of the people in her life and have them share who Jessi is for them, and hear all the stories from, you know, Teresa, and the time with Real Deal, and laughing and off-roading and life together and collaborating, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know, we talked so much. We talked a few times. We had a couple really long, great conversations, interviews just like this one, where incredible stories get shared. Angie, you know, who did the blue streak in her hair and like was there for so many personal and intimate moments in Jessi's life, and had such a wonderful connection with her. To the, you know, Kevin, to Kelly Yazdi, to Dana, so many incredible people, women in particular in Jessi's life, that we spoke with and did wonderful interviews with, that when we were editing the movie, it's really like, when Jessi wasn't on the screen, you're like, where's Jessi? Like, where's Jessi? I want to see Jessi. And so the question became, for time, can Jessi show us instead of having someone tell us? Mm-hmm. And how long can we stay with Jessi, right? We want to be with Jessi. And so in some ways, it made a movie, that kind of shaping of this movie made a movie that is for everybody. And for the people closest to her, but also not, because your experience of and with her was probably, you know, came through in a Sturgis or in a SEMA or in a King of the Hammers, but your relationship with her is probably in the scaffolding off to the side of the movie. And it's a hard thing to reconcile, because what's your criteria, your parameter? Time, right? It's an hour and 45-minute movie. That hits it all, and or the all that it is. And so that's a part personally that a lot of the things that aren't in the film are the things I wish were. You know, there's this guy Daryl Northrup, who was on the lake bed when Kitty set the record in '76, and was also there the day Jessi broke the record, the only person to do that. The team had a plane crash when they were bringing parts in 2016. You all having more of a presence in her story, right? Those were hard things to reconcile, but I think ultimately it's for us all to have our own personal relationship with her and have it live in our heart.
Yeah.
It's ours, right?
It's no one else's. It's everyone. And more time with her on the screen. I think that made me tear up a little, because just more time with her. It's not about any of us. We're stewards now of that. And we're in service to her mission.
And Dana, talk a little bit briefly about JCF and where you see JCF, because now it's been 3 years. Yeah. And what's that trajectory like? What's that hope like for all of us?
Gosh,
a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I'd love to, because it's been a journey. But these girls, these are our girls, our scholarship recipients they are the trailblazers. They are JCF, and these JCF as stewards of, we're here to continue the work Jessi started. Like Graham referred to, the blueprint, and he turning in her homework. We all were around for the blueprints that she laid with what she wanted to do for women. And so, and the Jessi archaeology proves that. And so it's the real deal. It's Teresa, it's all these, and it's projects that Jessi started and didn't get to finish. Scholarship program. We found that in her notes, like in one of her notebooks, it was like, we had launched the program, and I looked back in my notes and found a notebook that she'd scribbled down a scholarship program. And I was like, oh my God, I'm like, we're on the right track, And so we're in year 3. We have 3 classes, 21 women. We've raised and awarded over $100,000 to girls that want to go to trade school, girls that are in the arena. Like my favorite Teddy Roosevelt, it's like, it's not the critic, it's those that are in the arena, and their faces are marred, and they're fighting, and it's not easy. And the more I get to know these girls, they're going to change the world.
Yeah. It's Jessi's model too. Like the girls that get the scholarships are the ones that bet on themselves and take the step to lean in and
Right.
fill out the application.
Yeah.
And the receipt of that scholarship, which, a heavy majority of our fundraising goes directly back into the scholarships, and the scholarship is only the beginning. Community that is now a part of the Jessi Combs Foundation, which Dana it has done a huge part to rally, is now these young women have an international and a national network of each other that are going through the same things, that they now have industry access with SEMA and some of the projects that you're working on, Teresa. And what we're seeing is they're also turning back to younger women and like instantly transforming into mentors themselves.
Yes, they don't even realize it.
And so the scholarship is only the beginning for the foundation. It's our touch point, right? But it's also only the beginning for the recipients, because there's so much more about, like what I was saying earlier about getting above the fray. Like, great, go to trade school, get your hands dirty, build a car, paint a car, do whatever you're going to do. Now run the business.
Yeah.
Now lead what, right?
Right. And that's where we're headed, right? Like that's where it's like, and I've said this, I've said this from the beginning, that the scholarship, there's a lot of scholarships out in the world, and writing that check is the first step. But in many cases, scholarship, that's the end of, the moment where you get the check. For us, it's the beginning of a lifelong journey and family and relationship with these women. And we're here as their advocates. We're here, they're our heroes, right? They are the trailblazers. And so we're here to build them up, to bring them together. We're not here to do things for them. We're just here to be the wind beneath their wings, if you will. And like to show them the doorways that Jessi already kicked open, right? We took like 8 of our girls we took to SEMA. We brought them to SEMA. We didn't say, all right, here's a job, you know, like we said, okay, you know, we offered the opportunity for you to come and step into this environment, and then it's for them to make, you know, it's to show them things that they would not otherwise see, but that Jessi, you know, spearheaded, and that's us following in her the kind of you know, behind her in her footsteps in a way, is showing these girls the path that she already blazed, kind of make a roadmap of the path for these girls. And so that's how we ended up in the Real Deal booth, right? We brought these girls to, you know, I traipsed them around all over SEMA, and I had never known SEMA really before the foundation. You know, I know trade shows and in all kinds of other corporate and in industries, but I'm like, all right, I'm going to learn this space. And all right, come on, girls, we're going to go meet the SEMA Businesswomen's Network. We're going to go meet Teresa and the Real Deal and show you what Jessi was up to, and meet Jane. And
they became, mentors within the workshops, the Real Deal. I mean, it was incredible to watch them really command the stage and showcase their abilities.
And that is the transformation that we have the ability to enable, right?
Yeah.
Is planting those girls, the ones that want it, the ones that raise their hand. We're here to provide the opportunities, and the ones that want to step through and show up, and we'll show them along the way. It's like, meet Teresa and she'll teach you how to do a workshop. You've got this skill, but you might not know how to apply it. And so you're fixing diesel trucks, but let's show you how to make that into a workshop. Let's show you how to, you know how to weld. You just got out of school. You're better than most dudes probably, but like, let's show you how to teach that to other women. Like, it's just, I beam with pride when I think of it.
I really think, like, I feel like JCF and these scholarships are like, it's like this badge of honor that they're waiting. It's like you guys are giving this to them, you know, like they don't know. They're all these like, you know, like it's when you're a superhero, right? And you see the superhero and they don't quite know they're the superhero, right? But they need to be transformed into that. And like, you guys are helping that happen. Like that's what this is.
What's available is transforming the opportunity. Jessi was masterful at transforming opportunity. She would get, hey, you should get in my ride. You should do this. Okay. You know, it's one thing to say, okay, it's another thing to step into the opportunity and transform it and blow it out of the water and make it yours and have it launch you. Like, how did trade school lead to hosting TV shows, right? The Mustang.
There's no roadmap for that,
right?
You know?
Like, so I'm gonna do the Mustang build, and then I'm gonna crush that, and then move on to, you know. But the point is, I think, you know, where we want to create those opportunities for the ones that are going to step in and transform it.
Yeah.
Take it and run with it. The opportunity is there, knowing that the ones that are primed for taking it to the next level will, and that's another subset of this community. It's exciting to watch.
It sure is. And these girls are, it's not that they're already, I think maybe I said this earlier, but they're already going to trade school. They've already made the decision. So this isn't like, oh, they hear about the scholarship. I mean, well, there's so many layers of the scholarship shining the light on this as a viable career path, right? The fact leveraging the spotlight that Jessi created to put these women in that spotlight and to shine. And I think that's our job.
And because it's the theme of the day, like fostering that confidence to be kind, right? You've got, if you're at say Wyotech and you are another woman in the class, you might not get along. But if you're in a culture where there's women doing what you do around the country that aren't a direct kind of indirect immediate competition, it fosters now it's a network of community and growth and elevation, which allows, what we're seeing is that the women that are part of the community that go to the same school are now moving in together. And so that's happening, and it's incredible to watch this powerhouse network developing nationally. But one thing I really love too, that's been an evolution of the Jessi Combs Foundation in particular, because we had to get up and on our feet and kind of establish as an organization. But the connection and partnership with Real Deal is just incredible, because it's a different stage in the, you know, getting the tools and the experience firsthand in a workshop is an opportunity to transcend that into something new, right? An activity, a skill, a level of confidence that, you know, we're catching women when they're already inclined and going to trade school, right? We're helping them in that path. But like Real Deal, really, from the workshops that I've seen, it's like, it doesn't matter how old you are, you haven't touched, you likely haven't touched these tools in your life.
Right.
That's as Teresa and I call that's the ignite the spark moment, right?
Yep.
And on the customer journey and like corporate, it's like, you know, there's a journey people go through at these different stages, and that's the ignite the spark, like putting the tools in their hands that Real Deal workshops do.
It's transformative.
It's transformative because they're, and I used to, in motorcycling, we had a ride simulator called a Jumpstart. And so you would have a girl get on the motorcycle, shift through the gears, girl or guy. And I just remember I did it for like time and time, hundreds and hundreds of rides. And I would coach these girls, and like, they didn't think they could do it until they got on and they had someone coaching them. They're like, whoa, I can ride a motorcycle. Like, that's what Real Deal does, putting tools in girls' hands. And so like, then maybe they want to go to trade school. Maybe they want to take a different career path. Who knows? And so then there's JCF, the Jessi Combs Foundation, that has a scholarship program for women that want to do that.
Yeah.
It's a better together situation.
Right. Absolutely.
It's like, to understand the foundation or Real Deal, you need to know Jessi. And that to me was the accompaniment. The film is like, get to know this woman and how incredible she is and what she actually chose in life to fight for and get after and achieve. Now you really understand, like, now you understand that these organizations, the Jessi Combs Foundation, is like, we're playing for real.
Yeah.
Because that life is at stake.
Yeah.
You know? And that's what's incredible and powerful, I think, for all of it, Real Deal and Jessi Combs Foundation. It's founded by and run by people super committed and close to the mission.
Yeah. No, 100%. So a huge part of putting tools in these women's hands was for them to go out and like customize their shit, be like, go out and like, look, you can do this now. Like, guess what? Now you're going to have a motorcycle that you built, that you worked on. Like it changes how you feel about it. You know, you want to go out and say that this is mine and I worked on it. You know, I built this, I did this, you know, and for that empowerment, that moment, it's like this gift that we all get to share with everyone and be like, that's it. See that moment? Like, that's you that did that. It's not us. You know, like you said, we're stewards, and that's a great way to put it, because that's all we're doing is we're just trying to share this mission with other people and give them that sense of empowerment. Like, they will get it because of what they're doing. They're the ones putting their hands on those tools and getting in there and doing it.
We're the vehicles per se,
That's
you know, like,
right.
literally and figuratively.
Right?
That's always back to vehicles.
It starts with one thing that kind of trickles down into other aspects of their life. Maybe they were fighting to have some confidence in one area that wasn't even related to doing, I can pinstripe, I can weld, it might have nothing to do with that. I can forge some iron. And it kind of breaks down that barrier and opens up just so much more.
It's the confidence. You're like, you walk up and you just did something. You're like, wow.
If I could do this,
I guess I could do other things too.
What else can I do with it?
It just changes you, you know? And so that's exactly it, Jay. No, totally. It's in so many ways. We're helping them to empower themselves in more ways than one, more ways than picking up tools.
Yeah. And I guess it's back to that kindness, but also just, at some point you just step out and what is it? Courage isn't necessarily just living without fear. It's recognizing that fear and
doing it anyway.
Yep.
So,
and now
to go into that, I feel like that is like the question of like, what is, being a badass mean to you? Because I mean, it's all of this that we're talking about. It is stepping into it anyway. It's doing those things, you know?
Right. It's risk, but it's also like having the wherewithal to go, okay, and how can we do it right? How can we do it and perform and win? And like, what does success look like? It's not just like jackass stuff, right? It's like, how are you gonna do it in a way that's like,
that was good.
leverage your community,
Well,
leverage your knowledge, all the stuff, right?
And it's also not always roses, right? Like being nice and everything, like there is competition, like there's a time and a place to be fierce and to be powerful.
Ooh,
and
that's good.
And to do all those things. And so it's, but how do you balance? What's the combination and the balance of that? And, when you're not on the racetrack, when's the right time to be competitive? When you're not, like when someone's unkind to you and in the shop or there's just so many, and go ahead.
Ultimately results are unfuckwithable. Like if you deliver a result,
that's right. And that's what you'll see from these girls, like, the shit that they go through in their day-to-day lives in these environments. It breaks my heart sometimes, but they're fighters.
Yeah.
And they're fierce, but it's not easy. And it's time for all of us. I think what we can all do, men and women, is take that inclusivity message and that kindness message and that reach an arm out, and help someone. That applies to dudes too.
Yeah. I think one of the deepest points of feedback for me with the film is the depth to which it rocks men.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I had no idea. I had no idea, like kind of almost as if to say my part of this, but also what she and women go through and like finding their place in it.
What can they do about it?
Like I'm a good person and I didn't know I was actually kind of part of, perpetuating that. So that's been something for me that's been really meaningful too. Especially in particular, it's strange. A man walks up to you and is like sharing something deep and heartfelt. That's great. You're off to a good start there.
You're off to a good start. Vulnerability is cool.
Yeah.
Chicks dig vulnerability.
Yeah.
It's
Totally. No, in every, like, I don't care who you are, you've cried during it. It's 100%. I don't care, man, woman, child, whatever. You're crying. That is hands down what it's going to be. It's such a heartfelt moment, and it's like we all know the ending, but yet it's so powerful. We don't want the ending. Well, but you do. You already know. Everyone already knows.
Not everyone, but in a way, like this crew does. But I've watched it with people that don't know the ending.
Really, and because they don't know who she is still yet. Yeah. Wow. That's interesting because you're right, because most of the people that I've run into, and I love that everyone reaches out. It's just so good. I just I'm like, keep coming. I'm all good. I love it. It's just so good because everyone shares it, and people that, you're right, have not seen it. But I guess they haven't told me that, like, oh, I didn't know the ending. I guess because of me, they probably knew the ending because I shared it.
And that's been the amazing, a moving part for me. One of the largest donor for the Jessi Combs Foundation, when he watched it with his wife and she didn't know the ending, and it rocked. It became a conversation at the breakfast table the next day, because she's like, I didn't see that coming. You're pulling for her the whole time.
Gosh, yeah.
And so it was just anyway, and so it hits people in different ways, but but in the end, and you see the scholarship winners in the end, right? Like, and those are the moments where it was like, oh my gosh,
she's still alive. Yeah.
What can we do about this? How can we help this continue? And that's the message I hope people are left with, is that it does continue.
And a little bit of a spin on that. I watched it, my family was, there through kind of picking up the pieces after, but my sister-in-law, when she saw the film, she's a young school teacher, and her thing was like, she got rocked and was crying, and it was like, are you okay? What's the matter? She's like, I'm not doing enough for young women. I'm not doing enough for the young girls in my class. And like, that's what hit her, is like, oh, there's this whole opportunity there for me as a teacher, that like, I needed that mirror to kind of twist my approach a little bit.
I think for all of us, it's like, and I felt it at SEMA. I felt it after watching the documentary. It's like this new vitality that was just came up in all of us again, that like, she's tapping us on the shoulder, like, hey, don't forget, I'm right here, like, get your asses out there and keep going, and it was just this beautiful energy at SEMA that everyone, could feel. And she continues to like bring everyone together, be that inclusive community, Dana, like you keep mentioning, and just, it's like that. She's weaving it, all of it in tying all of this together to keep us going so it just keeps resonating, and keeps growing.
Obviously cutting the end of the film, we had a great team working with us, but a lot of care and concern went into how do you treat this? How do you handle it? And ultimately it was informed by Jessi in the way that her deal with us is like, and I had to reconcile this immediately at the accident. It's like, what do we do right now? Tell Jessi's story. We are here for and with Jessi to tell her story, regardless of how this goes. And at that point, we were like, we're just going to black. We're just going to go to black, and that's it. But to really appreciate Jessi for what she signed up for and the choice she actually made by getting in that seat, you have to know what she faced to appreciate the reality of the decisions that she made in life and the proximity of the speed of her surroundings when she comes to the end of the lake bed. But what you also need is Jessi is most effective here with us, and she needs to come right back. And she comes right back, and she's like, I never left, like, I'm here. I'm still doing my work. I'm still making impact. That's where she's most, I don't mean to make light of it, but that's where she's most effective. And so you have to go for the journey that she took, because it was her journey. And sorry if it's hard.
Yeah.
It was hard-ass for her.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And what you're left with is her mission is still here. It's still thriving. The foundation, the Jessi Combs Foundation and Real Deal are continuing that mission, those missions. And she's best here with us doing the work. And so that's, in my mind, that's where she is. She's here doing the work.
Always. I know, it's so good. I'm so happy that we're all having this conversation. I mean, I said at SEMA, all of it resonated in the right way that we just knew. I feel like that's it. It's like her going to Landmark. I feel like we've hit here and we're like, nope, now we need to take off,
Like drop down a gear and
right?
really,
Right down. Yep. Love it. And
we all know that feeling.
Yes, I know. And it's so good. It's her, weaving that community. And then that's what we all feel. And we're not, having anything else kind of get into that and be exclusive, like you're saying, and push people out. It literally is like being nice and being kind and loving people and just seeing them for who they are.
And being a teammate and being, it's like, if you know how to be on a team, it's like, that's what it's like, being a teammate. Like, think of your coworkers, like
we're all here together on this world.
Like, right. Like all, exactly.
All
like, instead of I have a friend of mine that it's like, instead of rebelling against, it's like rebel for, rebel for something. And we're like, we're on a mission, all of us on this call. And it's pretty, I don't know. These girls, our scholarship girls, they got Jessi tribute tattoos. Can I just say that?
Yeah.
Like that just melted my heart in the sweetest way. Like, because we found that quick story. We found that one, Jessi had a lot of different tattoos, right? And she had a lot of different people that did those tattoos. Some amazing artists, I'm sure, that are still out there that I haven't talked to, but I found one a woman who did one of Jessi's tattoos, and we had her create artwork in Jessi's honor for the year Jessi got inducted into the SEMA Hall of Fame. I'm like, we need to do all kinds of things because she's not here. We need to still have a party for her. We need to create these moments for her because she earned this and she'd be so proud. Right.
Oh, heck yeah.
And so I was like, well, what do we gotta let's Jessi tattoos. Like, let's do that.
That's
like,
a no-brainer.
Like, hello. I mean, you're talking to the Harley Davidson girl. Like, what other brand do you put on your body that one of the most recognized? So it's like, all right, tattoos. We need Jessi to not like peel and stick, like real artwork, like Jessi tattoos. And there was a line the whole night. They had to turn people away. And so that was the first year, and then year 2 Candace created another
first year.
Yep. Teresa's got one. It's on
my long sleeve, and this is actually this is a Christmas gift that Jessi gave me quite a few years ago.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, you'll see. I hope if you can post pictures, I'll send one over, Jane, of like, so year 2 we had scholarship winners there, and they all I mean, it's not like we said you should, it's like they all just went upstairs and got in line because they're like, we need to do this. And so there's a photo of like 5 or 6 of them, these girls, Jessi's girls, and that they call themselves that. They call themselves that. They made like this little video with the background of the song, you know, Jessi's girls. That's
Are you going to sing it for us, Dana?
No, I'm not going to. But so that's the power of Jessi, and the way that she will continue to change the world through these women, I think. And so Jessi tattoos for everyone.
That is exactly why we're all here, is to help her change the world.
Yeah.
And I wish, appreciate you having us both on, and like, I hope to hear more stories of yours, of both of you, but
we've been talking the whole time.
I'm sure in the future of your podcast, like the Jessi stories will weave themselves in, and I hope they do. So
yes,
we could go on for hours. It's apparent, but I'm looking at the clock and I'm going, okay, well, we talked about this. We've covered pretty much everything.
Yeah.
But I think we have, you already discussed the badass. What words of wisdom or mantra do you feel that you live by personally every day?
I think the radical inclusivity, honestly, I really try to, and compassion, I guess I can't really form it all into one phrase, but just that word inclusive and community is so meaningful to me, and how I try to live my life and what I want to share with others and what I hope to build in others and enable others to do. It's how do we make that moment in the shop different for a girl? And so it doesn't have to be so hard. I mean, just that community and that compassion and that inclusion, I want that to radiate out and for everyone to do that. And so I do try to, I want to share that with everyone.
I love it.
I think for me, I'm really focused on the process of things, because that's ultimately where life happens, is in the process of doing, right? And so I have a saying that if you don't like the process, if you can't handle the process, you don't deserve the results, right? You probably won't get them anyway. Because if you're doing drudgery to get to some finish line that you think is where you want to be and you hate the process, the finish line is going to feel no different, right? And so love the process of what you're doing. And if you're loving the process, regardless of what it is, you're on the right path, and you will achieve and deserve the results. And I think along the way, when you come up against challenges, really, whether it's through a mentor or your own kind of insight, it's like, what thing can I remove right now from my path that is in my way? And what can I add that's going to supercharge what I'm up to? Whether, again, it's a tool or a person or a class or an insight or something. It's like, you both have to remove the barriers and add the supercharger, right? So love the process and then clear your path and fucking get on the throttle. Right?
That's what the right foot's for.
Yeah.
And the right hand.
Left foot.
Oh, and the right hand.
And the right hand.
I love it. That's awesome.
That was good.
Thank you both.
Jane, do you ride a motorcycle?
I do. And you know what? I did the Harley. You remember? You gave
Pan America.
the passes for the and I got my license. My daughter and I went and got our licenses together. Yeah.
I forgot that, and now I remember, and I just
now I know. Right?
We haven't ridden.
She rode the Pan America too. She did that, babes.
I'm so jealous of your bike, girl. I want to
Well,
you tall ladies that I can't even.
You don't have to be tall to ride it.
I cannot even get my leg over it.
Do some yoga, Teresa.
I need to like stand on something.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
gosh.
so
No, I love riding with Teresa, and so Jane, you're next. We also ride together.
Yes, I want to do that. Definitely. But thank you guys. This has just been such a heart-filling, amazing opportunity to speak to both of you and to get to know you both more deeply in such a unique and ultimately positive way. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Jane and Teresa, for having me.
Yeah, I was excited as soon as you reached out. It was just like, you guys set such a great tone and energy. It's just like, so this was like that plus some. So really grateful for this. Thank you.
Yes. I just want to say that my life on earth is better because I know all of you badasses. It's like, and the badass that connected us all. So thank you. I'm so grateful for all of you and everything you do. And I love it.
Oh, thanks. I sent Jane that text this morning because I was doing research on the podcast and I was listening to the other episodes you guys have done, and I was just smiling the whole time and laughing, and I was just like, these chicks are my friends. Like, I just felt really proud and honored to call you guys friends, because like, and your energy on this podcast and just the stuff you talk about, it's so important.
It is.
And so keep going. It's really good.
Thank you.
It's really good. The world needs to hear it.
I know, right? It's sometimes talking about things that might, people feel they're uncomfortable, but
if you don't say it, who's going to?
100%. And I think that's the thing, is just, it's that stigma out there in society that people don't talk about. And it's like, well, why? Why don't they talk about it? And
maybe you'll have us back sometime, because I have a list of other things that I love to talk with you guys about.
Yes, absolutely. We could do this. But I think that,
I mean, not to lead sometimes, but I'm like,
yes, we love it.
We love to-do lists. I'm a Virgo.
Oh my goodness. I think we should all close with one of Jessi's most amazing statements. You said it at the premiere of the documentary. And I think if we close tonight by saying these 3 words, it's gonna be the way to close the show. On 3? 1, 2, 3. Love your balls. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Thank you guys again. Thank you guys so much.
Fearless t-shirts.